the real question isn't are men embarrassing, because we've always been embarrassing. The real question to me is how did we get to the place of building an entire social economy, if you will, around having women's lives revolve around men?
Women are suspicious when they see you with a boyfriend because women have to be suspicious of men to protect themselves. Well, I have to kind of assume your boyfriend sucks until I see otherwise.
Does having a boyfriend feel Republican?
It's all about us, and it's time to bow down. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bow Down. Dennis, as always, so very lovely to be here with you today, and I'm excited. We're diving into the much talked about Vogue opinion piece that dropped called "Is Having a Boyfriend Embarrassing Now?" by Chanté Joseph, and it sparked a lot of discussion online. I'm seeing it everywhere on my FYP, and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts and hear what you think, because I think even though it's an opinion piece, which I think is interesting because there's no specific like data or like statistics that are linked in here, but I think it captures something in the cultural zeitgeist right now that is really fascinating. So I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too. And hello everyone. And Reese, as always, you look lovely, Queen. And I just
Thank
want to tell
you.
we haven't actually talked or seen each other in a couple of weeks because of the
Yeah.
recording. And so it's just so great to be back together and be
Yeah.
back to share cool stuff and
I
maybe not so
agree.
cool stuff. But yeah, I think this
Yeah.
article, some crazy stuff and wild stuff. But yeah, no, this article I think is really timely. And it is sort of an add-on to our previous discussion
Yeah.
about men's health and men's mental health. And so looking at it from the male side. And so today I think we want to explore looking at it from the opposite point of view. And yeah, so I've got some cool things that I've sort of thought about and would love to share. But I mean, overall, why don't we just start with the question? Is it embarrassing to have a boyfriend now? What is your thought?
I it, you know, it's a hard question actually to answer, because when I first heard about this, my gut reaction was kind of like, yeah, it is embarrassing to have a boyfriend, isn't it? And then I kind of took a step back and I was like, it's not entirely true. And actually, couples still hold a lot of cultural cachet, however you want to say that. And I know that there's been some research. Maybe I'll try and find. My therapist just told me about this, so I'm like, maybe I'll try and find the actual study that she was referencing when she gifted me with this knowledge. But I know there is some research out there about how psychologically we are predisposed to respect couples more subconsciously, because there's something about the commitment of like multiple people in a group that does feel safe. And um knowing that two people are a united front, it does feel stronger, right? And so inherently, there is a subconscious respect towards couples. And also, I feel like I talk about this a lot, but it's so important to my worldview and my lens when it comes to these conversations. Growing up in Texas, like, it is absolutely a non-question whether you should be dating and looking for a husband and wanting to settle down. That is just the default mode of operations, and younger too. Like, in this part of the world, in this part of the United States, it is much younger that women tend to get married, and men get married, settle down, decide to start families, have kids, especially compared to like the coasts, right? Where in California, the average age of marriage is more in your 30s, and same in New York, I want to say. But in Texas, it is like 25. And I'm past that mark already. So I don't know. I think it's easy to say online that having a boyfriend is embarrassing, especially when I'm in my echo chamber of, uh, certain conversations that I'm having. But and that we have quite often. But actually, in my lived experience, I've been made to feel more embarrassed about not having a boyfriend in real life. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. And yet, I'll also say, if I remove other people's feelings from it and other people's judgments from it, and it's just what do I trying to in isolation feel, which is that even possible to really isolate my feelings on without outside influence. But I do think unless you have like a really, really, really good one, it is a little embarrassing to have a boyfriend and give your power away to someone that isn't amplifying it and returning it back to you.
I like that. Yeah, I think that that's a I thought that what I agree with everything there, and I love your perspective of it, and I also think it's interesting how you said, uh, I've actually in my own experience have felt more pressure for not having a boyfriend. So it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't is what I'm
Absolutely.
hearing. I guess one thing I noticed is this idea, or one thing that caught my attention was the word boyfriend land. And this idea of one thing I noticed is that boyfriend land is almost like a theme park. And it almost, it is sort of like fantasy land or adventure land at Disney. And like it seems like we're coming out of an era. And again, I'm curious of your take on it because I'm much less social media savvy. So I'm sort of just parsing this. I'm curious your
Yeah,
take.
yeah.
But it feels like there was for a while women's identity were really I don't know, man washed in the sense of, oh, this is my man, and my man, and now the pendulum swung in that direction, and now is swinging back. So this backlash of having a boyfriend is a trend. So to me, the real question isn't are men embarrassing because we've always been embarrassing, but actually we're all embarrassing all the time, all of us, men and women. But
Yeah.
it's the real question to me is how did we get to the place of building an entire social economy, if you will, around having women's lives revolve around men, which is kind
Yeah.
of what boyfriend land is, right? In some sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've really been thinking a lot about, and I love the word that you use, social economy, because I think that inherently our social economy is linked to our very real world economy. And money is power in a lot of ways, and time is money, right? Like we have all these sayings that link back to how we can financially or through currency represent things that we're experiencing in life. And that includes social currency, exactly like you're saying. And I think for a really long time, women, well, I don't just think, this is a fact, women had to have a partner in order to have any sort of social power because women could not own property, could not open a bank account. I think the most recent change was in the 70s when women could finally own their own credit card. And I was having a conversation with um, my dad and aunt about when they remember their mom my grandma getting her first credit card. And she was a single mom and she couldn't have a credit card until they were in middle school, which made her life much more difficult as a single mother. And my dad hadn't really thought about it before, which was interesting that he was like, I just kind of thought that she didn't have a credit card and then chose to get one then. But now that I'm thinking about it, that does line up. That was probably the first time she was actually able to get a credit card without having her father, who she was no longer in contact with, or her husband, who she was divorced from at that time, sign off on. You had to have a male co-signer, which definitely speaks to this like ownership of women and how marriage is the transference of ownership of women piece. But I think because women relied on men for so long to have any sort of independence, it's like your independence is always capped at a certain point because to have any sort of feeling of independence, you still were, this is maybe a dramatic word to use, but chained to someone else in a certain way. It's like your independence comes at a cost. And for the first time in history, we have women that are being raised by women that were not reliant on men to do something. And I think that's really when you start to see a shift in the social climate around things, is like when the generation that is raised by the generation that had the change happen, right? Same thing with like smoking. My generation is the first generation that is raised by people who fully knew how bad smoking was for you, and smoking is at an all-time low. Of course, we could get into vaping and the stupidity of all of that, but all that to say, it's like there's now a shift culturally around, well, if we don't need men for anything that we want to do in our life, not to say that there's not still roadblocks and barriers and patriarchy still exists, but it's definitely, patriarchy is much less legislated. Why would I? What benefit does it give me? There used to be a very obvious benefit that's not there anymore. And I think we're seeing that play out socially. But I don't know, though. Do you have any other feeling on why else it could be now? Because there could also be other like variables at play here.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think, to your point, societally, women have been property. I mean, read Exodus. I mean, if
Yeah.
you want to talk about, if you sexually assault a woman, you have to marry, yeah, and she's not betrothed, you have to marry her. That's the punishment for the man. But if she is betrothed, it's a death penalty because you've soiled another man's property. So, let's and remember, how many people are Christian in this nation. So inherently they're under that, regardless of whether they, yeah, and you can quote, "Oh, there's neither male nor female, slave nor free," blah blah blah, from Ephesians or whatever it was. Uh, but then why are you so hooked on trans? Like, if there's neither man nor woman, why do you have that? Why you got such a problem with
Yeah.
trans people if there's neither
I
man nor woman?
it's you're hard pressed to find a Christian gender abolitionist.
Exactly, but yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just, I just want to know how easy it is for them to say, well, no, slavery was in the Bible, but no, there's neither bond nor free, So, but they won't, but male nor female, that's still anyway. That's a story for that's another episode. I guess a question I have though is this backlash, right? I mean, so I think, the way I would see it is this idea of boyfriend land, this idea of having to preen, if you will. I would just call it patriarchy with a ring light. Like, it was a way to posture. It was social proof, like we said, social credit was signaling. Like, and what was it? I mean, I guess that's the question. What do you think it was really signaling? Was this boyfriend content, we'll call it, this 99% of the, like, there's a quote I read, 99% of the time it's women showing off their boyfriends or husbands, sort of thing. And I mean, I don't do much social media. I do Facebook for the most part. And by do, I mean, I just scroll. I don't really post or anything, but I do see quite a few posts, and it's almost always women. I'm not always, I think I've seen some men do it, but women like, "Oh, so happy to be with my hubby," or, 3 years with, and I would say, of my feed, it's 80-20 women posting that to men. And maybe, 20% of the time a man will be like, out with my, happy anniversary, so and so. My wife, or happy anniversary, so great. And again, how much of that is posturing, how much of that is real? On both sides, I don't know, but I will say it does seem to be it's women seem to do it more than men in my limited experience. I don't have data. So, but I don't know, is this backlash a feminist correction? So this idea of, hey, this was patriarchy, is it just a backlash? Or is it just a new purity test? Like, have we just created a new purity test? Like, I don't need a man. Listen, I fully agree. I love the idea that, hey, I don't need to have a man or a woman, to be whole and complete for both genders and in all directions. Like, you are complete in and of yourself. But is this just another purity test? Like, with the pendulum swung in the other direction, and now you have to automatically race over here. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I really like how you said, to me, boyfriend land is just like patriarchy with a ring light. I think that is so eloquently and like poetically put, to be frank, because it's true in a very big sense. And then as you were talking, I'm like, yeah, and why is that? I do think I completely agree with you that it's very much more women showing off their male partners than vice versa. And it, also just kind of couching, of course, this is a very heteronormative conversation. There are obviously so many valid ways to be in partnerships and committed relationships with anybody. So just prefacing all of that, that because of the nature of this article, we are speaking in heteronormative terms. But I do wonder, and I'm kind of going to be talking as I think this through, because it is interesting how boyfriends don't really post about their girlfriends, and girlfriends seemingly quite frequently post about their boyfriends. But then I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, that was definitely true at times in my life when I did have a boyfriend, where it was like for every one post they made with me in it, there were probably 10 that I had posted with them in it. But for every 15 posts I made, they had only made one post. So I wonder if part of the hidden variable there is that women just share more on social media than men tend to. I don't know the exact statistics on that, but I do know that, like, I have some friends that partners don't have social media, but the woman does. And it's like, well, then of course your boyfriend's not going to be posting about you because he doesn't really have an Instagram, or he has a fake one just for him to scroll, but he never posts on it. Um, and I wonder if there's some sort of tie into, like, vulnerability there occurred to me, that there's something about women wanting to share and wanting to open up and wanting to connect. And we've talked in the past about how women are a little bit more predisposed to wanting to generate community and cultivate community and connection amongst each other, whereas men are a little bit more closed off and hesitant to do that. And I think a little bit more hesitant to be vulnerable too is a fair statement. And there is something vulnerable about sharing on social media because it inherently says, like, this matters to me. Even if it's not mattering in a pure, quote unquote, pure sense, and it's mattering because it matters to you what other people think about you. And so it matters to you that other people think that you were at this bougie restaurant, or that other people think that you had this really fancy vacation, or, whatever it is. But it still signals that it's important to you for some reason. And I think that's something that women tend to be more willing and able and ready to do than men do, just in general. And I don't think that it's necessarily men not wanting to show off their girlfriends as much as women just wanting to show off their lives more in general. And I wonder if it just does go back to this difference in vulnerability and in connection, and social media being a place that women are really trying. I wonder if there's a difference there, and women are really trying to make social media a place of community, whereas men more so, again, generalizing out the wazoo here, uh, see it just as an addition, that it's not really community based or driven, and it doesn't really offer anything new there. But ultimately, I really love this quote that's included in the article, that says, "It feels like the result of women wanting to straddle two worlds, one where they can receive the social benefits of having a partner, but also not appear so boyfriend obsessed that they come across as quite culturally loser-ish." Um, and I think that that really is kind of like the thesis of this article. And it's difficult to hold those things. Like, it's so paradoxical. And I think ultimately you're right that it is just patriarchy repackaged. But what do you
I
think?
think I
Yeah.
think it well, I think it depends on intention, right? So
Sure.
why and we can't know that, but you know, let's let's look at the cynical side. I mean, there's obviously people who are just posting because yes, they love their guy and to me that's like an anniversary post or something like, hey, 4 great years with whatever, that to me I think is different than sort
Yeah.
of the daily but I mean I think we can both agree that throughout history, right, women were rewarded for their ability to find and keep a man. Like that was generally the number one skill throughout history. I would say that was probably the most important thing. I mean, you think about everything, being a good cook, being good at laundry, being good at everything that women, fixing all of the household, like the way we've sort of parsed. Really, women got good at that to find and keep a man. I mean, because of the importance of you were nobody if you didn't have a man in social structure. Like you literally did not have a seat at the table socially without some kind of a covering of a man, be it an uncle, be it I mean, look at the story of Ruth. Look at this, all of I mean, these are all things. So, but given that, is there this look at my man, and that's what it kind of is. Is this again boyfriend content the romantic version or today's version of a shopping haul? Like, look what I got. So when we were sort of almost peacocking to other, because men aren't looking at these. I assume the audience that these most women are posting to when it's boyfriend content are not other men. I'm assuming. I'm assuming that the audience that they really want to share this with is other women. Maybe I'm wrong, and tell me if I'm wrong, because but for men, I think it's kind of like if a man, if a man regularly posts on social media, but he's not posting his girlfriend, let's say, very much. My guess is the reason he's not is because he's keeping his options open and he doesn't want to be seen as taken, so that his other females who are in his stream or whatever the fuck it is on social media, again showing, someday I'll figure it out and then I'll be a whip at it. But I mean, to me, I feel like men don't post that because they are always looking to monkey branch in general. Like many men, anyway. I'm not every. I never want to generalize, but that to me would be the reason why. A good reason. I mean, aside from the fact that, hey, I just don't post on social media, which I think could be true for a lot of men. But I think they might not post being with their girlfriends, particularly in a new relationship, because they're keeping their options open. Or I wonder if women aren't more marking their territory too. I don't know. I'm curious. Again, I'm looking at this almost as an alien, look at it from my lack of
Yeah.
social media usage. So I kind of have maybe a weird perspective on things, and I'd love to be educated by you.
No. I think it's really powerful because there's two things that you've said that I've heard the reverse of talked about a lot. And now I'm sitting here thinking, like, is this reversal that you've brought up true? And I think you're probably right, but in a different way, like not quite mirrored, but almost like, I don't know. I'll explain and then we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
discuss. But firstly, this piece of like not of men not posting to keep their options open. It's so funny because in red pill communities, like there's several podcasts that are out there, like uh, I don't even want to say the names of them, but if
You'll
you're
know what they are. You
familiar,
can find them without a
you know
doubt.
which ones I'm talking about, where they invite on women just to like roast them and call them whores and sluts, and it does boost the girl's Instagram account, and so she gets more followers. So like, hey girl, get your bag, do what you got to do. But these men are just being horrible to them. One of the things that comes up a lot is how in a relationship, uh, it's fair for men to police their girlfriend's social media, either say you can't have social media or you can only post certain types of content or you can't post like swimsuit pics or you can't post like revealing outfits or whatever, because why would she do that unless she's trying to attract another mate? Why would she be posting something unless she's trying to garner attention? But what you're saying, I think, is showing the like opposite thought process, but in a way that like is more subversive because men are doing the same thing by not posting, but then almost packaging that in a but I'm doing it out of respect for you, babe. See, I'm not out posting ass pics. I'm not out like uh posting gym workout vids all the time, um, because I'm not looking for anything else, but it's like, but you're also not posting the fact that you're in a committed relationship. And sure, your girlfriend may be posting a pic of her in a bikini on the beach with her friends, but she also posts you and is pretty much staking this claim and saying, I am also off the market. And so it's interesting to see. I think it almost goes back to the thought process of like sharing or not sharing, and how both of those are a choice that hold power. Um, and I wonder if there is this kind of equal and opposite, that in like red pill community, women posting more has been demonized because it has become this new way to police women, right? Which is very much what a lot of men are in these communities are interested in doing. And then the second thing that there's kind of a reversal of that you mentioned was like when women are posting these pictures of their boyfriends, um, they're surely not posting for other men, right? They have to be posting for women and showing off like, hey, I look what I got, like a shopping haul. I love how you said that. Like I got this one. And I do wonder if the more that women are proud of their partners, the more they would post about it. Like, duh, the more you're proud of anything, the more you're going to talk about it, right? Um, and so that's interesting too, with like just the general thesis of this article. But there's a conversation happening online about how men date for other men, even if they're straight, right? That it's like when you get a girlfriend, you're not actually really picking who you like, who you're the most attracted to, who you think is the best partner for you. You're kind of picking who you think your bros are gonna think is the best girl. You're kind of picking who you think, uh, like the guys in your circle are going to be the most impressed by. I don't think that's true of everyone. I do think in certain circles where most of what men do is to kind of impress each other, it could be true for some people. And there was this one video that kind of was talking about it that I'll try and find and link down below, where this man said, yeah, I don't care if I find a girl attractive, like if she's not the hottest one of my bros, like, or if my bros aren't gonna think she's hot, I'm not gonna date her. Like, because I can find a girl that I do think is attractive, that is conventionally attractive, that my bros are also going to think is hot. And I want to have the hottest girl. And it's like, hang on, what's going on? That just feels really backwards, right? Like, why would you care about having the hottest, coolest, most whatever woman out of your bros? But clearly that's important, at least to some people. I don't know how common that thought is. But in you saying, like, are women posting these things for other women, showing like, hey, staking this claim, don't go after this guy, is that women dating for other women in a sense? That it's like, I found one of the good ones. Look at how I'm able to have both the social cachet of this partnership, the social benefits, and also not appear so loserish, culturally loserish, as stated in the article, because I've got a good one, because they are a feminist, because they do respect me, because we do have an equal partnership. And it's like, I wonder how much that does go both ways too. Yeah, and I guess I just also want to preface, like, again, it seems like the masculine side feels a little bit more subversive and icky when I'm talking about this for some reason, but I haven't thought about how these things could be flipped. So, yeah, I would love to just hear your thoughts
Yeah.
on that.
That is, honestly, you blew my mind a little bit there with that, and minorly, but that is so, I the idea that, oh, my bros won't, I have to date the hottest woman or whatever for my bros. Like, uh, I that is some I mean, I'm not surprised in some senses because, but that just seems so bizarre to me. Like, that you why wouldn't and I also feel like that's great because get out of the dating pool. Like, get out of the dating pool for, like, real men. Like, and you know what? There's a lot of women who want that too. Like, they just want, uh, the guy 6 foot tall guy, chiseled, financial, investment banker, check, check, check all these boxes. So I guess it does happen on both sides. Uh, it's just, it was what's interesting to me is my reaction to it because I am surprised about that because I could just not imagine ever making that choice personally. And so it's one of those things where I don't doubt that it happens, but even thinking about that, like that just seems like an awful, like that just really seems awful. Like for the guy, I mean, and the girl, I mean, and for everybody, it seems like everybody's losing here. Like,
Yeah.
why would like to be so insecure that you have to have a hotter, whatever that even means, like, that's to me completely subjective.
Right.
Like, brains are sexy, so is dating the smartest woman in the room sexy? Well, not to most men, I suspect. Like, why don't we have that competition? Like, that would be more, that would be a better competition. Yeah, that's so I guess, I guess there is some, I mean, I guess that is to me, that's both of these ideas of whether it's men preening for other men, right? Peacocking or women peacocking for other women. I guess the source is the same, and it's just insecurity. It's this
Yeah.
idea that it's a zero sum game. If I get this, there's a finite number of people of good men out there, and or attractive, whatever good means to you, and that could just be super sexy, could be a big dick, and or maybe that's what it is. Has a huge is endowed in tremendously. That's important, and it's okay if that's important. Just be honest with who you are, with
Right.
what's important to you. There's no shame on that. Like, just understand that every no. I was reading this Twitter, on Reddit, like I see like Twitter profiles where people are like, oh, I'm not getting any matches, like help my profile or whatever. And I always find that interesting because I like the psychology of it. I guess we would say that that's an insecurity, right? Like, hey, I need, and maybe, and that's okay. Like, I don't want to judge that. Like, it's okay, but just notice it. And it comes back to like, is that is that a value you want? Like, what is ask yourself why, notice that you're posting these things and ask yourself why you are. And so, I mean, to me, all of this though leads me to ask the question, like, from a, and I guess I'm asking this as of you as a woman, because as a man, I can't really answer that. But so as are women, so from this backlash, this idea of boyfriend land sucks, why are we in boyfriend land, et cetera. And even this, and I know I read in the article and some other things where, hey, if people start like people had lamented, hey, yeah, I lost 700 followers when I posted I had a boyfriend, I started dating somebody, or so it seems like there's a backlash, like, oh, and even one creator was like, I wish I had, my followers were like, oh, I wish you didn't have a boyfriend or something like that, and I guess the question I would have is are this backlash, which again I assume is mostly a woman oriented backlash, because I don't think men are out here pounding the table saying you shouldn't be posting us or should be or anything. So I assume it's self policed in that sense. Are are women mad at men, or are you mad at how quickly women disappear into men, into the we? And is the backlash really that? And it's not, because men are men. I don't know that anything's like, men aren't the one who wanted you to post about them, I don't think, or not want, I mean, maybe some, but I'm just curious. Is this misdirected anger in some senses? It's
Mm.
not having a boy, it's not that having a boyfriend is cringe. It's, it's, you know, wanting to admit that you are happy to have a boyfriend, or I don't know. I mean, what is it really that the cringe is like? Because it
Yeah.
feels like, again, it's a pendulum, and so I don't think it's a genuine. I mean, there's always truth behind it, but I feel a lot of it is other motivated, and I'm just curious. I can't answer that question because I'm mad at everybody. So, but
Right. Um, I do think I think you're right, and I do think the underlying anger at another woman for posting about a boyfriend is rooted in anger against misogyny and patriarchy. But I think when a woman loses a bunch of followers, one, when I read that, I was like, well, what kind of content was she posting before? Because generally you gain followers because they like the content you're posting. And if you drastically change your content, well, yeah, you should expect a change in followers. And was this just because they posted one picture of a boyfriend and then all of a sudden all of these people split? Or was this a hyper feminist, like borderline, like no woman should ever be with a man because that's XYZ level of content, and then posts a boyfriend? Well, if that's what's going on, yeah, you're gonna lose followers because you look like a liar. But if it is coming just purely from this sense of like, I was following you for like makeup tutorials or hauls or travel content, and now you have a boyfriend and he's just in stuff, and I don't really want to see that. I think it just speaks to the underlying cultural feeling of like, I don't want to be inundated here too. It's like women are, on one hand, I think it's like, I hear it from mom, I hear it from grandma, I don't want to hear it from the girls I follow online. You know, it's like I'm getting it in all directions. I want to cultivate a feed that lifts me up. And even though that is about that person following, that just seeing a photo of another woman with a boyfriend or a partner would make her feel inadequate or less than. But if so, it's like, yeah, it's a social media account. Unfollow. If it makes you feel bad, unfollow. Um, that's completely within your right and healthy, I would say. And then the third piece that I think, and I think that piece really is the most nuanced part of this equation, but I would also say there is this sense of like class betrayal, or almost like feeling like that person is a scab a little bit, if that makes sense, where it's like, come on, I thought we were in this together, girl, and now here you are. And it happens so often too that even very, very independent women um will get into a relationship and slowly and surely disappear from their friends. Slowly and surely their boyfriend is invited to everything. Everything has to be a couples hang now, and it can't just be a girls' night. Everything has to we have to watch the football game, and we can't just uh have our or watch The Bachelor, you know, because you want your boyfriend there, and he wouldn't be there if we were just watching The Bachelor, or you know, whatever it may be. But I think it also is very reminiscent of this betrayal that a lot of women feel amongst each other, that is like, we built this bond, this connection, and having a man involved changes it. It does. It's almost like I'm forgetting the actual name of the psychological phenomenon, but in a study where it's like observing something inherently changes it, right? Like there is no such thing as like the unobserved study. Kind of the same thing. Regardless of a woman's behavior or attitude towards men, someone getting a boyfriend, a man being a part of the conversation now, a part of the equation, just changes things. Even for the most enlightened, balanced, thoughtful people, it changes the dynamic. And I'm not necessarily saying that it shouldn't, because I do think if you're in a committed relationship with a committed partner that you are building a life with, that person becomes the most important person in your life. Truly, it does. And I think that actually, for me, when I see my friends like betray their partners publicly, I'm like, that's not a good look, you know, like that is your person. And I get that they now have to be more important than me if you are headed in that direction. But at the same time, a single friend still gets to have feelings about that and still gets to feel hurt and still gets to decide, like, yeah, I can respect that that's what you need to do, that you're choosing this relationship. And also, I get to choose how I want to engage in this friendship now, knowing that your priorities have shifted. Um, and I think that just seeing one picture of a girl with a man in it just kind of brings up this wave of complexity that is just like, I'm just gonna unfollow. I don't want to deal with this every time I open my phone. And I know for me, I think, in saying for me that this is something I'm doing, it makes me think that other people probably are too. I've gotten real liberal with the unfollow button just because it's like I am done with having a social media feed that makes me feel bad. It's like, I don't care if I knew you back in high school. If when you post stuff it makes me feel bad and I don't want to think about it right now, I'm just going to unfollow you because social media does enough to fuck up our brains. I don't want to actively be looking at something that doesn't uplift me. And I can't say I've ever unfollowed someone just because they've started posting about a boyfriend, but I could see how subconsciously that could happen. Um yeah, so a
Yeah,
lot of
I
different thoughts
could.
there, but
Yeah, I could, and what's interesting to me, especially talking about followers and stuff, I think anybody who, particularly women, who the creators, I would think, although maybe true to men to some degree, but for women especially, uh, uh, I think it shows the danger of, depending on your audience, of bringing up a boyfriend, because if you have uh, a bail on, and it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you're getting it on both sides. Like, so if you've never posted about a significant other, you're a woman, you're doing whatever content you're doing, knitting, I don't care, whatever it is, tarot readings, whatever, and you have a significant male following of some sort, like, I guarantee you, when you post about a boyfriend, you will lose male followers because they are following, because so you're saying there's a chance, and for some of them, it's living vicariously, and the minute you have a boyfriend, not all of them, because some of them don't care, right? But some of them will drop, and I guess the same thing is true on the woman's side, where, you know, just bringing up a boyfriend is so trigger, oh gosh, this is gonna be all about boyfriends now, unfollow. So I can see where from it's kind of like DEI stuff from corporate America. Like, there's really no great answer in some senses.
mm,
Like, I mean, Target got into because they said reprehensible things, but the CEO said things that were terrible. But it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, to some degree in that situation, right? Like, you can't make everybody happy. It's, the only winning move is not to play, and so yeah, I think that's very interesting, and even, but yeah, I get what you're saying about the idea of that friend who has to bring their significant other everywhere. Uh, it does, um, that's got to be frustrating because, again, your relationship is with the friend, not plus one. That plus one is fine sometimes, but when it's an all time thing, it's kind of like, well, no, and that can be tough. I suspect. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting how and I do think like the parasocial nature of online relationships comes up with this too, right? Where it's like if you really don't have a connection with these people that you're following, then anything they do shouldn't really feel like a betrayal. But I can see how, like, we know that people develop real parasocial relationships, especially with like YouTubers and people who are very personal online and talk about their personal lives. Like, your brain processes that as a friendship. And if you've had even one friend that has done that pattern before, and most women have several female friends that have fallen into that pattern, it's hurtful and it does feel like a little bit of a betrayal. And I think that um it's twofold in the sense that it's like deep down, it is just hurt that it's like no one wants to be number two. It's like you want to be someone's number one, and I'm not your number one anymore. And that's gonna hurt. Even if I get it and I can respect your choice to do that, like, again, I have
That's
my
fine.
feelings about it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's hurtful. I mean, it
But
hurts, and it's okay.
yeah, yeah. But then I think there's also this other cultural piece that's a little bit less interpersonal and subjective and more um systemic in the sense that it's like, man, why does it seem like every creator, like I follow this one creator and there are a lot of creators that once they get um really big, they stop talking about social issues, or once they have a really big following, they suddenly don't want to speak out about patriarchy or you name it, right? And I think there's also this lack of trust that we have in each other, and also this desire to like follow people that are like-minded. And I'm of two minds with that, in the sense that it's like, on one hand, we really can't be creating echo chambers in our social media feeds, and it's probably really healthy to have some dissonance coming up, and well-educated, well-researched dissonant opinions that are still respectful about certain things, because they're like, let's be clear. I'm not saying, well, you should follow one racist just to have that opinion in there. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
But there's non-negotiables here. Like
Right,
there's
exactly.
we don't need to listen to the pro-Hitler feeds or something to get there.
Exactly.
I don't care what the Proud Boys' take of things are. Like I don't need
Exactly.
to. I'm not interested in listening to their philosophy,
Right.
sort of thing.
Right. Correct. But I do think that there's a gray area in, like, it's social media. You're not forced to follow anyone that you don't want to follow. But also, what's your goal? What is your goal? And if you're actively seeking out other ways to educate yourself across the board, then like, cool. Only follow on social media people that um lift you up and make you feel good and agree with you. And if it is mainly just like lifestyle content, I'll be honest, I do the same thing. It's like, if I am just following a lifestyle creator that just does like outfits of the day and skincare stuff and like little mini vlogs, I do like knowing that they share my values. And if they don't, I'm probably going to unfollow them. Um,
So can I
but
ask you? Can I
yeah,
ask you
yeah, yeah,
something?
please.
Because that actually kind of sparked another thing. Another direction to move into, which was so. Let's go with this. You have a lifestyle, makeup, whatever it is, whatever it is, and they start doing, I guess, the soft launch of their boyfriend. So in other words, like they're not talking about the boyfriend, because I get that. Like that's but all of a sudden now you notice little signs like that they're posting things and you see his hand, because they were saying how now, like, I guess it's a soft launch, right? So women are no longer like showing big pictures, but it's things like a hand on the steering wheel or clinking glasses with a male hand and a female hand, whatever. So essentially, tell me you're with somebody without saying, tell me that you're with somebody without saying you're with somebody. Does that change anything for you? So if one of your lifestyle, contents that you follow, somebody you like, you just started seeing signs that they had a boyfriend, but they never really brought it up or anything. It's just, they started, and I don't know if my question even makes sense. Again, not being,
No, 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 it does.
but well, I don't know. What is that? I'll just stop there because I think you get my question. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. To me, it doesn't for me, right? In the sense that it's like, if I followed you for it, as long as it doesn't change what I followed you for, right? If I followed you for, let's say, just skincare content, and it's like skincare product reviews and um skincare routines, all of that good stuff, and I follow you for that. Well, you probably still post on your story like a photo of you at coffee every now and then, and a photo of you in a nice, cute dress at an event every now and then. If now it seems like you have a date to that event, or there's another coffee cup there, it's kind of like, well, okay, it's not really changing the fact that I followed you for skincare and that's the bulk of what you post. But if your whole personality becomes boyfriend centric, that's different. And I don't want to follow a content creator who's posting purely girlfriend content, right? And it's like, okay, and if that's what you want to do with your content, like,
you do
hey,
whatever you want. No, yeah,
by
yeah,
all means.
totally.
But yeah, but I don't think that that would change my follower status, as long as it maintains like where I like the value that I find in this account. Um, but at the same time, I can see how it could raise um suspicion isn't exactly the right word, but like maybe like a question mark, like, oh, I'm curious about that. In the sense that it's like, used to not. Have you always had a boyfriend, or is this new? If it's new, or like you're just soft launching now, is this going to be a part of your stuff? And like on old YouTube, there was like boyfriend does my makeup tag, or like boyfriend, I do my boyfriend's makeup and stuff like that. And it's like, are we going to start seeing that content as a way to like shift? And that's become less and less popular. But I think that would impact me more than just, like, a random
Picture with the
photo.
coffee cup. Got it,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah, where
Yeah,
it's
makes
like,
sense.
"Okay, I was following you for, like, this educated opinion about, eh, niacinamide or retinols or whatever, but now there's a shift."
Right.
And I think the question mark would also be, like, because just because someone has a boyfriend doesn't mean anything about their values with it, but if it's someone that, like, I really, really, really like online, it's like I would probably be curious about, well, what is your value with that? What conversations do you have with your boyfriend? Like, what is that relationship like? And as long as I don't see any like anything that bothers me as a viewer, I don't really care. But I would be curious, I guess. The
Interesting.
same way I would be with a friend, right? If they got a new boyfriend and it's like, well, I need to meet this boyfriend.
Of course.
Mm,
Do I approve? Yeah.
see, right,
You gotta pass the
exactly.
test. You gotta pass
Yeah.
do you pass the vibe test? That well, actually, I frankly think that if you have good friends, that is a fantastic way to vet your potential,
Yeah.
uh, frankly. Now, if you have friends who are not necessarily looking at aren't always on your side, then that could be a problem, but hopefully we don't have too many of those. Yeah, I mean, so I guess I the soft launch concept is interesting to me because I look at it from a business lens, right? From my time in business and whatnot. To me, it's not this hiding of the boyfriend gets back to what we were talking about. It's not aesthetics necessarily. To me, it's hedging your bets, right? It's I mean, now it's avoiding cringe, right? That's one thing because I
Mhm.
guess it is cringe. It's avoiding, the future breakup cleanup, I guess, in terms of and this is something I hadn't even thought of, frankly, because again, I'm not social media heavy, but I saw people talking about it. The idea of, oh, I have all these things on social media with my ex now. I have to clean them all, and I have to go through that. And I guess maybe that could be cathartic, but I could also see where that would be uh, painful as and as another step in the breakup. But I mean, to me, it's very much like a beta test. In is what I take from it. This idea of soft launch, because in business that's what you do. Okay, well, we're not really launching this. We're it's a few select things. So this idea of like, oh, I'm just going to have the glass clinking, or maybe two pairs of shoes by the bed. Whatever. I don't know. There's 100 different ways
Right.
you can signal this. I think it's kind of funny. Um, and but is this so here's the big question I that came up to me. And again, I don't know I can't answer the question. So I need you to answer the question because I literally don't have the perspective
Yeah.
to
Yeah, yeah,
answer
yeah.
the question, I don't think. But it's would you say soft launching is essentially I want the perks of being taken without being cringe or without becoming cringe? Like I still want to signal that I'm taken, but I want to do it on the I want to show that I'm an independent woman, but I also want you to know that I have a boyfriend. Or I guess it could be vice versa. I don't know why I'm gendering this. It could be again. I think because we're talking about it from a woman's perspective. I don't know. What do you think? Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to say, like, probably yes for most people, even a little bit subconsciously, because, like we were talking about in the very beginning of this conversation, there is still, even if having a boyfriend online is embarrassing, there is psychological and still cultural benefits to being coupled up. And as a woman, you even if we don't need men for owning property or having a credit card or bank accounts or anything like that now, there is absolutely a certain level of protection that having a partner brings you that is, creepy man hits on you at a bar, please stop. He continues, please stop. He continues, I have a boyfriend. He stops. Like there's a certain level of like, oh, she's with a man. And if men who don't respect women are just not going to respect women, but if they see that she is then protected by a man, men will respect that woman to respect the man that she's with. So it also offers some protection in that sense too, that it's like there just still is this benefit that comes with it. And I do think that part of it may be like for women that do have really great guys, because there are really great men out there that are feminists and anti-racist and super supportive of their girlfriend's work and like their number one fans. And it's like, if I found someone like that, I'd be hard pressed not to want to talk about them, because it's like, look at this awesome person that I found, and aren't I so lucky? And it would become a big part of your life that you want to share about. But I
Yeah, I think
do
what you,
think
I want to
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to hit
please.
on something you said there because it's so powerful to me. I noticed it and I don't want to forget it. It is, um, again, it goes down to intent, right? Like what
Yeah.
you just said was so beautiful. Like I am so lucky. I'm bursting with enthusiasm to post about it because I'm just amazed by how blessed I am, how fortunate, how lucky I am to have this guy. It's one way of looking at it. And I love that. I think that's beautiful versus versus, oh, look at how awesome I am. Look at the guy I've got. Look at how see, to me, there's a world. It could be the exact same post, and I can't tell. I mean, you probably can. You look at context clues and stuff, but a single post cannot tell you which. And not that it even matters anyway. But to me, I guess, why is it that one feels okay and the other feels icky, or
Yeah.
why is one? It could be the exact same. You could be posting the exact same thing, right? And it's all about the intention behind it. One is because you just want to share how blessed you feel for this guy. And the other one, it's I just want to show how awesome I am. Like, I look at what
Yeah.
I've caught. Like, how do you tell the difference? And that doesn't even matter. I don't know, but that's what I thought. I love what you said there, though. So keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I think that that is really poignant. And one thing that what you just said brought up for me is like, why is having a boy like let's grant that having a boyfriend is embarrassing, because even the some of the stats and like comments and stuff that are brought up in this article, even though it's more an opinion piece, it still seems like, yeah, culturally it does feel, at least online, a little embarrassing. Why why would you, as a woman, be embarrassed by a boyfriend? And to me, the thing that what you just said brought up was, I wouldn't want to be with someone that I felt like I couldn't post. I wouldn't want to be with someone that I wouldn't want to hard launch, that I wouldn't feel confident, at least at some point, right? Like, not within 3 weeks of knowing someone, but like, why are you with them then? And I guess I get the nuance there that is like, well, but what about all this other stuff? Is it this like, but all men suck, all men are bad, and therefore any man that you see on a woman's feed is an instant unfollow? And I'm like, I think, sure, maybe some people are unnuanced with the way they look at it in that sense, but like I said earlier, if I saw someone post like a hand on a steering wheel, I wouldn't be, I'd be curious. I'd want to have a conversation with that person about what their values are around it, more than just like assuming, oh, well, she's going to backslide into these values that I disagree with, unfollow, unless that became clear through the content that's being posted. And if you're not with someone that you can be proud of, like,
Why are you with them?
ooh, why are you with them? And uh one of these comments actually that I think speaks to this is, boyfriends are out of style. They won't come back in style until they start acting right. Read another comment with thousands of likes. And I think that maybe that's the problem, is that like, having a boyfriend in and of itself, I don't think is embarrassing. I think women are suspicious when they see you with a boyfriend, because a lot of men, because women have to be suspicious of men to protect themselves in our current society. But if we learn that there is a man that is safe and feminist and great. I don't think many women would still be like, well, he sucks and I'm unfollowing anyways, right? I do think it's more nuanced than that. And I wonder if part of it is this like, well, I have to kind of assume your boyfriend sucks until I see otherwise. Um, just because it's like, well, most interactions I have with men tend to be men like this. And therefore, I'm like, isn't it actually beneficial if you do get a boyfriend that you're proud of to be like, hey, let's make a video together where we can talk about like the things we have in common and how you support me so that my followers can learn like this is why I'm in this relationship. And for me, making content about coherence and living in alignment with my purpose, it would absolutely be another avenue to discuss like how can you be in a relationship coherently? How can you build a partnership coherently in alignment with your values? And I would hope that that would resonate with anyone that chose to follow me. Um, yeah, so I just think it's like there's some nuances in there that is like, sure, maybe there is this underlying like all men suck sentimentality, or sentiment, not sentimentality, that is influencing some of this that is rooted in inherent suspicion in men because of historic and systemic patterns. But then there's this other layer of like, but who is that person? Because ultimately, when we're in real life and actually connecting with people, you're judging someone based on their values, not on their gender. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on that? And if not to say like boyfriends are embarrassing, so it's 100% men's fault, because I agree with you that like clearly there is some like women wanting to show other women this, right? And we're not perfect. Like there's no such thing as a perfect victim. Women very much are perpetrators of patriarchy as well. Um, yeah, what do you think here? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that struck me is, the need to have to say, "Oh, I have a boyfriend," and how I think that hurts both sides. Because I now remember there's a Rick and Morty episode, which I actually think there's a lot of depth in Rick and Morty that people don't give it credit for because it seems so silly. But a lot of social things that are there, social commentaries. But there's this one scene where Morty, who's like a teenage boy, right, is asking out a teenage, is like just shooting his shot with a teenage girl on another planet, whatever. But she immediately goes, "Oh, I'd love to, but I have a boyfriend." But they carry it out for like 45 seconds, like rather than, and it's like, why can't you just say, "No, I really appreciate that, but honestly, I'm good." Like, thank you. I think you're great, but it's not, I'm just not interested. Like, why can't that be enough? And I know why it can't, because what you just said, like guys are just like, no, come on, come on. And even if you do say I have a boyfriend, that might not even be enough. That's not like, and I guess my first reaction is, man, it really makes me sad that that's the way life is, because it's so much better when you're just authentic. Like, hey, I dig you. Is it reciprocal? Like, if not, cool. Like, but again, that stems from this need to win, right? Or need to be like, if you're comfortable with yourself, it's not, hey, I need you. It's like, hey, I like you. Like, I think together, like we can shine together. Let's see what, is that interesting to you? And if not, cool. It's too bad life isn't like, that's the way I think it should be. And I'm sad that
Yeah.
it's not. There's a real part of me, I think, that's sad that we live in the world we do with so many misunderstandings and things.
Yeah.
But I think it makes perfect sense to me, everything. So I had an interesting idea. So, because we're talking about these sort of, the new coding in social media. I'm curious if you'd be interested in playing along. What I would like to do is share, just describe a picture and get your verdict, sort of like CSI, if you will, in terms
Okay,
of
yeah.
like how you would interpret it. So let's say the choice, and we can do whatever we want with this. We haven't practiced it, so I have no idea if it's
Yeah.
gonna flop,
No,
but
I
we can
love
always.
this. Yeah.
And so really the idea is I'm gonna describe some photographic evidence of a post, let's say, and I want you to decide. You're the CSI. You're the the guy making the decision. Is this a soft launch, a situationship, an affair, a normal relationship, or just a friend, just brunch, let's say? And just curious. And there's no right answers, right? I'm making this up, but let's see. Just curious. So number one, let's just say. the photo is of two. I think I've talked about this already. Two cocktails with a sleeve of a man in one of the pictures, and the caption is just clinking glasses. What's the verdict on that for you? If you see that on, so let's say, I guess use your friend. And again, I can't really play along as much, but I can give my thoughts. But like, what would you think if you saw a friend of yours post that? What would be your thought? Like, what's the verdict?
Yeah, I'd probably assume that if it's just a hand clicking, I'd probably assume that it's like a date of some kind, but maybe like fifth or sixth date. Um,
Okay.
Someone that they're interested in being more serious with.
Okay. So maybe that sounds to me like soft launch ish. Kind of moving into
Yeah,
the sort of slowly introducing. That's what I kind of.
yeah. But also if you don't see a man on the Instagram again, it's not going to be like, well, what happened to the guy? Because
Sure, sure.
I've certainly done that before, where it's like you see a guy in every post, and then all of a sudden you stop seeing the guy, and
Grand
it's like,
opening, grand
what
closing.
happened? What happened? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Grand
exactly.
opening, grand closing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I would agree. I think the just brunch. Like, why are you? If it's just a brunch with a friend, why is it just a sleeve? Like, why if you're having brunch with your friend, why not have the whole toast?
Yeah.
With my good friend Bob or whatever. Great to catch up. Something like that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So how about a passenger, the knee of a passenger with a dashboard in a high end car, and the caption is he gets it. Like, so you see a picture of a guy
Oh,
with a knee. Like, what would you go with on that one?
he gets it as the caption is
Mm-hmm.
strong to me. That's strong. I think that's like committed relationship, pretty hard launch, even though, like, even if the face isn't in it and the guy isn't tagged, that is a clear, like,
Mm.
I'm in a relationship. This is serious.
Okay, so that's definitely more than the clinking glasses for you,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay.
Which I think partially could be uh the caption, but also I think there is something about being in a car with someone that feels intimate too.
Yeah, I agree. It means there's a level of trust there that you're you're not just meeting on a date. You're not meeting in a public place. This is ostensibly a private space. Yeah, I guess for me, I would say the motive, or the is, I agree. Sort of at the very least a situationship, if not a growing. I don't know if a committed relationship, but definitely something more serious than just dating or a friend. But to me, it's like the he gets it kind of luxury car is suggesting provider energy, right? But there's no man in the picture, but it's kind of again to me it does suggest that, oh, look at me, like he gets it, like
Yeah,
that's what
that's
I'm getting
so
out of that a
interesting.
little.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I didn't even think about it as being provider energy, but now that you say if it's in a luxury car, it absolutely could be.
Well, not with
But
the he gets it to me, like
right, right, right. I immediately put it like if I were to say he gets it about a guy, that would be like high praise coming from me. That is like he's one of the good ones would
right, right,
actually
right,
be
right.
like what I'm saying. So that, but I, in the lens that you just framed it, maybe a little less serious. But for me, if it was in the lens of like, no, this is a stamp of approval, very serious. If it's like, oh, provider vibes, it's like more serious. But
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's just interesting. Again, I'm much less practiced at this, so I'm just going what my initial gut was. Oh, this one's a good one. You'll like this one. So, a hand on a steering wheel with a watch visible. Okay, with the caption is manifested, and that exists. By the way, all of these are real. By the way, I'm just telling you, all
So
of
I'll
these
be
are
honest,
real.
that I don't know if that would be an unfollow for me or not. It might be. Because manifested when it comes to so this is interesting now thinking about would you actively unfollow someone if this was the very first boyfriend post I had found, maybe I wouldn't unfollow yet, but there is something about when it comes to like manifestation and magic work that It was just really serious to me, and I know that we've talked about it in the past, and
Again.
I'll link in the comments down below and in the corners up on YouTube, episodes where we've talked specifically about manifestation and more spiritual aspects of feminism, if people are interested in our thoughts on that. But to me, it's like, girl, why were you putting all of your energy into finding a man and not into why is that watch not on your wrist, girlfriend? Why is this not your car? Like, what are we doing? Why is that not
Uh-huh.
your bank account? And to me, that it's more of a signal of a different value system there. Um, but I do think that it implies some sense of seriousness. In terms of the seriousness, I'd say about the same as the provider energy with the car in the last one, where it's like, if they're not exclusive right now, they will be soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a different view, a slightly different view of this one in my own mind, and it was, wow, this relationship ain't gonna last. Like, you know what? 3 months from now, it's gonna be unmanifested. Well, it's gonna be
That's so
manifested because you
funny.
manifested exactly what you wanted, which was not the relationship that would be, necessarily what you actually wanted. It's what you think you wanted. So, for the same reasons, I think, yeah, the manifested
Yeah,
is
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
a
yeah.
loaded word. I wonder if it was something like, uh, dream come true or something that wasn't quite as coded, if I would think differently. But,
Right.
um,
Because
but
that word is used a lot in today's zeitgeist, and we think about that very differently than the kind of cultural term around it for sure. But all that to say, agree.
okay, here's another one. So a mirror selfie and the woman's face, and again, we're assuming these are you. I love the idea of you looking at it from I actually like the angle of, rather than your friends, like these are people you follow for whatever reason, and on their socials they post this. I actually like that angle. So maybe we stick with that for how that. So again, that's sort of so a mirror, the content creator shows a mirror selfie. Her face is clear and his face is cropped. So there's somebody there, you can't see their face, and the caption is date night. What's the verdict?
Honestly, so definitely committed relationship. If I had not seen a picture of the boyfriend before, I would be like, do you think your boyfriend's ugly? Like, why is his face not in it, girl? Like, what? You're confident enough to post date night, but not his face? Unless boyfriend, like, has doesn't want his visage
Yeah,
on
yeah.
social
I don't.
media, which is
Sure, which is
totally
fair. That's
valid.
totally
Right,
fair. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think 100% anything that says date night implies, like, this is a thing we do, this is a pattern, this is my committed partner, like, this is a serious relationship. Um, Especially if it's, like, a mirror selfie, that also implies, like, we kind of got ready in the same place together, so we're likely living together. Um, yeah, pretty serious. It just, like, odd maybe. I think even if I were to start posting if I were to get a boyfriend and were to start posting boyfriend content, I just don't think a date night post is ever something I would really it just feels so, like, empty calories to me almost, that it's
Yeah,
like,
I
"Huh,
agree. It's not even
okay."
interesting. Like, why do I want to see that? Like, what is this
Right.
doing for me? Unless I'm a friend of yours and I'm happy for you, in which
Yeah.
the thing that came to me is like, ma'am, this is a relationship, not a true crime documentary. Like, why are you cropping? Like, and my first thought was, oh, maybe the guy doesn't want to be seen. But then why not do a different photo? Like, it's just weird to me to do that photo.
Yeah.
If like, the only reason you're doing it is to keep his, like, I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of definitely to me felt like a soft launch kind of thing with or a privacy thing for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
More than anything there. Um, all right, I got a couple more here, but I don't, we'll do one more, let's say. Uh, oh no, do two more. I got two more interesting ones here. So this one, I'm just curious what you think about this. So, at the back, a photo of a back of somebody's head, a back of a man's head at dinner, um, with presumably like taken from behind the man, so you get the back of his head, her face, and the caption is grateful.
Oh, okay. Is the woman looking into the camera or looking at the partner and it looks more candid?
Either one doesn't matter.
Oh,
I mean, I think
okay,
the photo I
interesting.
had was candid, was her looking at the camera, but, what if it was it doesn't matter. I mean, let's do both. Same caption, one, she's just, it's like a third party taking the picture, the other was posed, Like, it was
Yeah.
her looking, and you just happened to see him answering. It just doesn't matter.
It's interesting. I don't think in terms of what this article is discussing, it really matters. But to me, communicating values, maybe it would, because spiking the camera when you're doing something definitely communicates a sense of power and, like, ownership over what's going on in the situation. Whereas if you were just caught in a cute conversation with your boyfriend and you're just laughing and it's like, oh, this is such a good picture. And he doesn't really like showing his face, but like, this is a great picture to show that, like, oh, this is a way that I can like actually post a really cute picture, but it doesn't show his face because that's not his favorite thing. It's like, that could be really cool. Um, and there is something about, like, grateful that I like more than manifested, because manifested just feels a little like, "Look what I did to do this thing," as opposed to grateful being like, "This is nice, and I enjoy it." And to me, it's like, that communicates you're, like, grateful for the relationship and for this guy, and, um, if it's a third party taking the photo, it also makes me think that it would probably be at some kind of, like, some event where there's a professional photographer there. Like, it seems like an odd picture to stage to me. So I'm like,
That's
if
true.
you're trying to stage that photo, I just think I'd be like, well, that's a weird photo to try and ask someone to get. But if someone just happened to take that photo and it was a cute photo, I'd be like, that's actually really cute. And it's cute that you can, and you're grateful. Cool. It's good to be grateful for things that you have in your life that you feel blessed to have. Um, but definitely, I don't know if I would say, I do think hard launch kind of communicates a face and a name, or like a tag. If he was tagged in it, I would say hard launch. But even then, it's like probably a serious relationship, but still softish launch.
Okay. I like that, yeah. Um, so a photo of shoes in an apartment, and the caption is "company." Like, it's a photo of male shoes by a door, and the caption is "company." And by the way, this exists. This was actually something I saw.
To me, I'd be like, did you have a one night stand? Like, what's company? Ooh, like there is something a little bit like spicy
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah,
that,
totally.
you
I
know?
mean, obviously, the picture was not spicy at all. It's
Right.
oh, maybe if you have a shoe thing, I guess, but
Yeah,
it
but
was just a picture of shoes, but
the caption definitely implies a certain level of casualness that I'm like, I don't really think that's a launch at all. I would think this is more the like a Samantha Jones kind of style of Instagram post that's like uh yeah, that doesn't mean anything. And it really depends on the person too. But if you had not seen any boy content or relationship content from someone at all, and then they posted this, I would just be like, oh, they're trying to like get a little saucy on Maine. uh but yeah, more Samantha Jones, a little bit more sexually open and liberated than maybe your average bear posting about a fun time.
cool. Yeah, that was interesting. I don't. What did you think? Like, it's weird how different
Yeah,
little things subtly. I mean, just even in the conversation we had, notice how these tiny little things change
yeah,
a lot, right? Like, and
yeah,
again, it boils down to intent, but it just shows how we make meaning out of,
yes.
because none of these scenes I've described have any inherent meaning. Haven't seen the photo, you don't know the person, right? So every bit of meaning we've extracted in the last 5 minutes talking about this was completely fictitious. We've made this
Mm-hmm.
up. But yet, notice how we make the meaning out of it. It's very interesting how, and your
Yeah.
meaning is going to be different than mine. And I don't know, I just think it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
kinda
I
interesting how that showed up.
I totally agree, and it makes me think of I didn't even bring this up earlier, but another episode we could slash I think should do is Adolescence. I don't know if you've watched it yet on Netflix. Oh my gosh. You have to be in a good headspace to watch it. It is so intense, but it is some of the best TV that's been made in a long time, I think, and I
Really?
think you'll
Alright.
really like it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Alright, I
But there's a scene in Adolescence where the lead police officer of the case in the show is talking to his son who goes to the school that the victim and perpetrator attended, and his son is trying to explain to him like why different emojis mean different things online and how the police officers have completely like missed the mark when it comes to how they've analyzed like comments and captions and DMs and stuff because they don't know the meaning behind these emojis. And he says like, "Well, when you're texting mom, dad, like what heart do you send?" And he said, "Red heart." And his son said, "Exactly, that's I love you. If you send a blue heart, it's friendship. If you send a white heart, that's marriage, wedding. If you send a purple heart, that's sex. If you send a," and even some of the meanings
For
I was like,
real? Wait a
is
second. Are you s
no, I
I
know. And
like
I was
purple,
like,
and I send exclusively purple hearts, and I'm
I
not
know. And I
having a
was
lot of
like,
sex,
I
so
didn't
I
know
think I'm
that.
doing it wrong. If purple heart means sex, I am doing it wrong because it's not
Well,
working for
and
me.
honestly, I don't remember what all the hearts were because I'm like, I I don't really use them to mean that. I think there is something to using like the red heart over like a different color heart that does have like more intensity to it, which is interesting. But all that to say, I was like, I think it kind of speaks to that a little bit. That is like, how is there this like cultural, it's literally like hieroglyphics. Like we have this cultural understanding around language and they also, because red pill content comes up in the show a little bit, and they had said, well, you see the firecracker emoji, that means red pill. And I didn't know that that was a thing. And so I Googled it, and apparently it is kind of a thing. The show is set in the UK, so also there may be slightly different stuff around that. Um, but I think all that to say, just another example of exactly what you're talking about and what this exercise illustrates is that, like, we make meaning of things, and when there is a cultural consensus around something, it carries that meaning forward as meaning making creatures. Yes, we're making meaning independently, but we also make meaning as a unit, as a society. And that's why like new words are added to the dictionary all the time and why um like slang and memes and all of these things like carry and become their own uh knowledge holder. And it's really cool in a lot of ways that we can communicate like this, but it absolutely shows the nuance that goes into uh being a human being. And also I think some of the pressure that people probably feel when posting is like, well, could this be interpreted as this? Could this be interpreted as that? What if this means that? And how
I think you've ruined purple hearts for me now.
Sorry, I
I'm
don't
really
remember if
scared,
that's what
like
he said. I really don't remember if that's what he said. Do not take my word for that.
well, anybody who's gotten a purple heart from me, I'm sorry or call me, one or the other, I
Right.
don't know, like, depending,
That's
on
so
your interest
funny.
level, apparently,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
no, that's kinda interesting. So, one more thing that and I know we're running short on time, but one other thing that I noticed is this again, this idea of boyfriend land and being a boyfriend girl, right? Like, this idea of, oh, I'm a boyfriend girl. And I think now, and maybe it's partially it's because of the political climate, the red pill, as you mentioned, this, but being a boyfriend girl reads as basic, right? It's your normie, maybe even right coded. And so women sort of distance from men to stay in good standing, and so I would just say it I'll ask you the question outright, does having a boyfriend feel Republican to you? Um,
I'll say this, because that was one of the comments on it that I think is just so fascinating. I don't think having a boyfriend feels Republican to me. I do think being a boyfriend girl does. And I think that there is absolutely a difference because you can be single and be a boyfriend girl, and you can be in a relationship and be a girl's girl. And I think ultimately it goes back to intent and values and intentionality with how you handle relationships, both with your friendships and in romantic relationships. Um, because again, like if you have a girlfriend who is single but is constantly out looking for a partner, it's like, does she have your back? Is she competing with you in some ways, you know? And there's a way to be boy crazy that's still a girl's girl. But yeah, I don't think boyfriend is inherently Republican to me. But I do think if you're not a girl's girl and you are a boyfriend girl, regardless of your relationship status, I do tend to assume, which I probably shouldn't do, but I'll be honest and cop to it. I do tend to assume some other values about you. And maybe Republican is not even the best way to say it, but like conservative, traditional even, which tends to correlate with the Republican Party and other values. But
Yeah, I was going to
yeah,
ask, is saying, having a boyfriend feels Republican, is that really just a coded or another way of saying I just don't want to look trad? I'm not like the other girls sort of thing. Is that what that really is? Because I mean, there's a lot of partnered women who publicly complain about men. Like,
yeah,
so what while dating them? Like, but they're publicly, why? Like, help me fill that, so is it just, hey, I don't want to be, I'm different? Like, is it just a on average, I mean, obviously everybody's got their own, individually, none of this is true, but on average, is it just about avoiding the labels of being a trad wife or being, like the other girls, or I'm not a unique snowflake, I mean, I'm curious because it does seem an incongruity,
yeah,
right? Like it seems inauthentic to be complaining publicly about men, but while dating m- a man, or in some senses, I don't know. I don't know. To me, that feels, is it authentic? Are you living out what you're really saying?
yeah. And what I would say to that is I think that it can be inauthentic, but it doesn't have to be because and I think maybe in my opinion, right? And I think that maybe that's why when I was talking earlier about like if I did start posting boyfriend content, like what that would look like and how it would be about like our values and what we have in common and like if you see Bob or whatever, know that like this is who he is, right? Um it would be important to me to illustrate like the nuance of him as a person and how that's different than the issues with patriarchy as a whole because there is to be a I think there's a tension built into this question that is like, well, if there's an inconsistency in authenticity, if you are someone who says like men are dangerous, men are bad, like we need to be suspicious of men and all men suck, whatever, and then are also dating, it does seem to be incongruous. However, that's like most women's experience. If you're a straight woman, right? Is, well, I kind of want to date a man because I'm a straight woman if you're interested in a relationship, right? But at the same time, this man the population that I'm sexually attracted to is also the population that poses me the most harm. And it's just a cognitive dissonance that comes with womanhood, right? So I think like is it inauthentic or is it just reflective of womanhood that it's like, yeah, that's kind of how the cookie crumbles a little bit and we have to be maybe a little bit more forgiving of our fellow women that if some people have and I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, but some people are more willing to settle for different things. Um than other women. And I that's something that I have come to, that like absolutely I would rather be single than settle on anything at all. But different women have different circumstances and different familial pressures and are in different places in their lives. Um, and we don't fully know, like I think someone can be a feminist and still end up even accidentally with a bad guy. Um, so it's hard, and I think that there's a way to do it intentionally that is like, even if you do find a good guy too, that is like, I get that I'm on here saying like fuck all men all the time. I would choose the bear, and then am partnered with a man. I get how that's like problematic. But when I say all men are trash, I don't mean all men, right? Like, and there is this like getting into the nuance of the belief there. So yeah, I think the question that you asked is an important one because it points at the inherent paradox of womanhood, of straight womanhood, I'll say.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it, actually, that I hadn't really, I think, heard specifically that way. So I actually, I want to acknowledge that and just notice it. And in this idea of, you're trying to find safety in the very creature or on average who has been unsafe, uh, in many instances, and could at any point be a source of unsafety. And and yet and yet you're expected to give yourself to this person, and that is a fascinating construct to be laboring under in some uh very real ways, and in all real ways, actually, and yeah. And I guess I can see where it'd be very hard to, I mean, we all know that having a negative experience, even just one negative experience, can cause a lot of issues down the road, like, that just sort of
Yeah,
build up as you protect yourself for very good reason. And, um, yeah, I guess I just wanna take a moment to acknowledge that
yeah,
that is that is a real reality, and maybe we need to cut each other we all need to cut each other some slack in terms of of how difficult some of this stuff is,
yeah,
uh, it is and by the way, I'm I'm having trouble in the very moment because I haven't had time to reflect, but I wonder what the same thing is for do men have a similar paradox, I wonder, or a
mm,
similar, um or do straight men, I guess, have a similar paradox? I'm curious about that. Like,
yeah,
and what would that be? But my brain is not working to actually come up with it on the spot. But I'm not.
yeah.
I don't. Does anything come up for you? I'm gonna think about it too. But
I mean, I think this is just a gut kind of thought, but I wonder if like publicly being with a woman communicates a certain level of like emotional openness and vulnerability that men are told they can't have. Like being in a loving relationship inherently communicates vulnerability, and that's the worst thing you can be as a man in under patriarchy. And I wonder if that's part of this like, well, if I'm in a relationship, I still need to be the man of the house and I still need to be um all of these things. And it's interesting the performative aspects of gender that are tossed tossed, kind of offloaded onto your partner um because of that. And it makes me think too about these multiple inverses that we were talking about earlier with this like, well, but do women date for women too? And I think in some ways there is more work on men in terms of patriarchy, because when you're the person who benefits from something that still harms you, it's a lot harder to unyoke yourself from it, because it's like, well, I'd rather have a known halfway heaven than an unknown heaven. But for women, it's like, well, this is already a hell. I'm going to fight through hell to try and create some sort of heaven. Um, but if men are still like benefiting from this quote unquote hell. That's why I'm calling it like a
Yeah.
halfway heaven. It's like there is a little bit more work there because to do the work of being emotionally vulnerable, you are going against society in a lot of ways that really wants to pull you back into it. And I mean, I guess women are doing the same thing too. I had a way of trying to say this thought that I had that is kind of escaping me, but it's like there really is a big onus on men here, I think, that is like I get how hard what it is we're asking you to do is. And but also we have to ask you to do it. And you need to do it. Um Even in the sense that like women date for women and men date for men and um sure, like having a boyfriend could be embarrassing the same way maybe having a girlfriend is embarrassing, like still I don't know. Now I'm just rambling now.
No, no. Uh, well, I guess it's interesting in the sense of like one thing that came up from two things came up for me. Number one was when you said how being trapped under the patriarchy that ostensibly benefits you but also punishes you and harms you. I kind of view that a similar analogy that's outside of the relationship male female dynamic is that of a really well-paying but soul-sucking job, which, you know,
Mm,
and I would say that in this analogy, a lot of men, given the patriarchal benefits of it, are kind of like high paid in corporate America, but the job sucks. They hate their life. It's sucking the life out of them, but yet it's providing. I mean, it's a great salary, and
right.
so, and so then you're looking at the decision to go out and do my own thing, right? Which is and that's analogous to the decision to being in a relationship, I guess, and or leaving the patriarchy, right? Can I leave this job and go do my own thing that's going to take me away from the safety of having this, but it's going to be fulfilling for me, right? It's a lot
Yeah.
easier if your job sucks in some ways to do that, right?
Yeah.
So for women to embrace to reject the patriarchy makes a ton of sense, right? I mean,
Yes.
like they're
Yes.
getting shit on, and yet at the same time, many of them don't reject the pay. Many women don't reject the patriarchy, which is is again interesting, but beyond the scope here. So that's one thing that came up for me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially was this idea of yeah, it makes it's hard for men to break it takes a lot of courage in the same way it takes courage to leave a well-paying job to go follow your dream. Uh,
Yeah.
and 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 so I respect any man who has the courage to talk about these things, even if they're
Yeah.
not perfect about it, but to be aware of it, in my opinion, puts you about 98% above. You're in the top 2% of men would be. I don't know. Is that
Absolutely.
accurate? You're probably more knowledgeable than I am, but
I
just
mean,
to even acknowledge that there's a patriarchy and that you're a part of it, and to just be that aware. What percentile is that? Would you say?
I would say so. I think acknowledging that there is a patriarchy is already pretty difficult to get a man to do, but to acknowledge that you are a part of it, even like implicitly, it, anecdotally, yeah, I think 98%'s pretty strong because like I mean, I think a great analogy is like comparing it to whiteness, like me acknowledging that there's inherent systemic racism, and as a white person, I'm implicitly part of it, and I have implicit biases. Like, it took a long time for me to be comfortable. Well, I say a long time. Uh, it took a while for me to be comfortable when I first started doing this work to say like, no, I am a part of it, and that's something I have to acknowledge and reckon with, and that's why it's important that I'm doing this work. And it's hard because it's like I get that it's uncomfortable, but we need you. You need you. If you want to follow in to use your analogy, if you want to follow your dreams, you have to take that first step. And it's going to be hard. It's going to suck. There's going to be days that you're like, "Why the hell did I do this?" And then you're going to make it out on the other side and feel
You know,
freedom.
there's a thought that just occurred to me as you were saying this. I think the real problem, or a real problem, is men are not, it has not been men don't have any real idea of what an equal world would look like. So there's and frankly, I'm not even sure what that answer is. Like okay, boom, snap. We've got pure equality. Why as a man, Republican, Democrat, whatever, but what's in it for me? Like why is it so it goes back to this came to me as you were talking about the analogy because it's like okay, well I want to live my dream, which is to have my own business. So for me it was I left corporate America because I wanted to help other people. I didn't exactly know how. I just knew I wanted to be there. I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing things to make to lift other people up. Part of that is this. I mean, this is part of that mission. And like you said, it is uncomfortable because I know I'm part of the problem. I know I still am. I mean, I may be in the 2%. I hope I am. I would love to, and I think all men should strive to be. I do my best. But it is uncomfortable sometimes because no matter how much I try, I'm going to fail at because it is so deep in our society, in our DNA in some senses. But so it can be uncomfortable, but in doing so, it's the benefit to me is growth. Like, but in terms of for all men to say, yeah, this is what I want to empower women because it's going to do X, Y, and Z. This is what's going to happen when that happens. And I think maybe there's a lot of these appeals to, you know, it's not right. I should get paid this. It's unfair that women get paid, and it is. Everything that is said is true. But I think the problem is it's not maybe it's not being sold to men in the right way. Like Madison Avenue needs to get on the marketing here, maybe, I guess. And it's
Yeah,
okay to say, no, we shouldn't need to do that. And I totally get that. The
right.
problem is that makes everyone it's an eye for an eye. Like, and if you and I'm not saying you have to teach people because if you motivate people, if you show the reason why, like, hey, if you do this, good things are going to happen, and here's going to be your benefit. You're going to get more sex. You're going to whatever it is that needs to be the motivator. I actually think I have yet to, and maybe this is something to think about. I don't know. Maybe it's out there, but and I just haven't. I don't think it's well publicized. All of the energy of feminism to me that I've paid attention to at least, or that's pop feminism, let's say. I've not maybe deep researched waves and first, second wave, or new wave, but is focused on why we need to, what the problem is, right? Like women don't get paid enough. Women do all the emotional labor. Women, all of these things. And that's why we get things like, well, boyfriends are having a boyfriend is cringe, right? Because it is. But nobody's done a good job. I've yet to hear a good explanation for the average man why this is beneficial to me. Like, why would I want this? And maybe that's what we need to do a better job doing. I don't know.
Yeah, I
As
do
trying to
think
forward this mission.
right. I want to underline what you said about like we shouldn't have to do that, right? That it's like it being the right thing and moving towards equity and equality should be enough. And I agree with you that it's like, but if you're trying to further your mission, it is very much like, what have you done for me lately? How does this benefit me? Because all you're saying is that it's going to bring me down to bring other people up. Why would I ever support that? And it's like, well, because hopefully you're a good person who supports other human beings, right? But if that's not enough for you and you do need a direct personal benefit, I would argue it's access to vulnerability, which leads to connection and authenticity. But that is something that men who still believe in patriarchy look at as weak and not worthwhile. And so I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's because the reward that actually is in it is one that a lot of men aren't interested in because they
They haven't
don't believe in it
experienced it
yet.
before. Well,
Exactly.
it's because they haven't experienced it, right? I mean, for the most
Yeah.
part. And yeah, it's such a challenging problem, right? I mean, in the
Yeah.
sense of and it's always easier, like you always get people to move psychologically when there's something they're moving towards rather than something they're moving away from. And it
Yeah.
feels like a lot of the commentary and comes off as you need to move away from this rather than moving towards this
Yeah.
and again it's not a critique. It's more my pragmatic nature saying, okay, I want this to happen. Like, what needs to be true to get you into this car today, gentlemen? Like, what do we
Right,
need to be
right.
true to have you see that? And I mean, something to comment on something you said in terms of, well, just to be a good person. The problem there is that's ill-defined, and you ask most men, and they would say, "What do you mean? I believe in
I
equality.
am a good
Like, I
person.
am a good
Yeah.
person. I treat women well. So, that's not, so what do I need to change if I'm already doing things right in my own sight? You're the one saying I'm doing something wrong. I don't think I am. You know, uh, it is a it's a
Yeah.
wicked web, isn't it? It's a vicious
Yes.
circle.
And I think that there's more here. Unfortunately, we
Yeah,
we
we
are
we
at
are
our
out of
time today.
time.
But I think we should pick this back up. So thank you, Dennis, as always, for
That's
being here,
lovely.
for sharing your thoughts, for bringing this exercise. That was really fun. And listeners, thank
We
you all
love
so
you.
much
We
for
love you. We
being
love you.
here. Absolutely. And let us know your thoughts down below, wherever you're listening or watching. And we'll catch you all next time. Bow Down is a weekly podcast from the Cohere Collective that explores esoteric and empowered feminism.
Please subscribe to Bow Down wherever you may be listening. And if you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a like, a 5-star rating, and a review. And if there's anyone you think would enjoy this episode, or maybe just needs to hear it, please share it.
If you want to stay up to date on all things Bow Down, you can follow the Cohere Collective on any social media platform at the Cohere Collective, and check out other content and offerings at www.thecoherecollective.com.
If you're interested in working with Reese to find and pursue your purpose, I encourage you to head to www.thecoherecollective.com/life-coaching.
If you're interested in working with Dennis to shed your mask and embrace your desires, you can email Dennis at dennis@theheartstoybox.com.
A huge thank you to Jack Corbett for Bow Down's music. You can find him on Instagram at j.corbe. Thank you all for joining us today. We're so glad you're here.
And as always, we hope you feel like you are living more coherently. And until next time, love.